Okay, Bhantaji, you can get started.
Hare Krishna, Om Ajnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chashurun Meena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Today I am reading the book Teachings of Lord Chaitanya by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The most astonishing factor is that Lord Chaitanya, although the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, never exhibited himself as Krishna. Rather, whenever he was detected by intelligent devotees as Lord Krishna and addressed as Lord Krishna, he denied it, and sometimes he closed his ears, protesting that one should not be addressed as the Supreme Lord. This was his indirect teaching to the Mayavadi philosophers that one should never pose oneself as a supreme lord falsely and thereby misdirect the followers. The followers also should not be foolish enough to accept anyone and everyone as a supreme personality of Godhead without testing with the scriptures and by activities. One should not, however, mistake Lord Chaitanya with his five diverse manifestations as ordinary human beings. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna Himself. The beauty of Lord Chaitanya is that although He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, He Himself, as a great devotee, is teaching all the conditioned souls how devotional service should be conducted. The conditioned souls who are interested in devotional service should follow, therefore, in the exemplary footsteps of Lord Chaitanya to learn how Krishna can be achieved by devotional service. In other words, the Supreme Lord Himself teaches the conditioned soul how he should be approached by devotional service. By analytical study of the five diverse manifestations of the Supreme Lord, we can know that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a Supreme Absolute and that Lord Nityananda is an immediate expansion of the Supreme Absolute Truth. We can understand that Advaita Prabhu is also in the category of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he is the subordinate to Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead and his immediate subordinate expansions are all worshipable by the other two, namely the internal potential representation and the marginal potential representation. The internal potential representation, Gadadhara, represents a pure devotee, and the marginal potential representation is a confidential devotee. Both these categories are worshippers of the other three categories, but all of them, the two worshipable categories, and the two in the worshipable category, are engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There is a specific difference between the pure devotee and the confidential devotee. Dif- Different potencies of the Lord are engaged in serving the Supreme Lord in different transcendental relationships. They are situated in conjugal love, in parental affection, in friendly affinity, and obedient servitude. By impartial judgment, it is found that the internal potencies of the Supreme Lord engaged in conjugal love with Him are the best of all devotees. As such, both internal devotees and confidential devotees are attracted by the conjugal love of the Supreme Absolute Truth and are the most confidential devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Other pure devotees who are more or less attached to Sri Nityananda Prabhu and to Advaita Prabhu are attracted by other transcendental relationships, such as parental affection, friendly affinity, and obedient servitude. When such devotees are very much attached to the activities of Lord Chaitanya, at once they become confidential devotees in conjugal love with the Supreme Lord. There is a very nice song sung by a great devotee and Acharya in the disciplinic succession from Lord Chaitanya. His name is Sri Thakur Narottam Das. Sri Thakur says as follows: when will there be a transcendental vibration all over my body simply by attending to the name of Gauranga? When will there be incessant flowing of my tears simply by uttering Hare Nama of the Lord? When will Lord Nityananda be merciful upon me and all my desires for material enjoyment become insignificant? When shall I be purified by giving up all contaminations of material enjoyment? And when shall I be able to see the transcendental abode, Vrindavan? When shall I be eager to accept the six Goswamis as my prime guidance? And when shall I be able to understand the conjugal love of Krishna? In other words, nobody should be eager to understand the conjugal love of Krishna without undergoing disciplinary training under the six Goswamis of Vrindavan. The Sankirtan movement, inaugurated by Lord Chaitanya, is a transcendental pastime of the Lord, so that I may live simultaneously to preach and popularize this movement in the material world. And in that Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya, Nityananda and Advaita are his expansions, and Gadadhara and Srivas are his internal and marginal potencies. The living entities are called marginal potency because they have potentially both attitudes, namely the tendency to surrender unto Krishna and the tendency for becoming independent of the Supreme Lord, and being contaminated by the material world through the propensity for material enjoyment. When a living entity is predominated over by the desire for material enjoyment and becomes entangled in material contamination, at that time he is subjected to the threefold miseries of material existence. There is a very nice example in this connection. It is just like a seed sown in the earth. If it is overpowered by too much water, there is no possibility of the seed become fructified. Similarly, if a man is captivated by material enjoyment and even if the seed of such enjoyment is within the heart of the conditioned soul, but he is overpowered by a flood of transcendental activities in love of God, then his potential seed cannot fructify into a conditioned life of material existence. These conditional living entities in the material world, especially at the present age of Kali, are being overpowered by the flood of love of God inaugurated by Lord Chaitanya and his devotees. There is a nice verse in this connection written by His Holiness Prabodhananda Saraswati in his book Sri Chaitanya Chandramrita. In that verse, it is stated that materialistic persons are very enthusiastic in the matter of maintaining their family members, wife, and children. And there are many mystic speculators who are engaged in speculating on being liberated from the miseries of material life, and therefore they undergo various kinds of austerities and penances. But persons who have discovered the greatest transcendental flavor in the movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu no longer have any taste for all those activities. Persons who are under the impression that, in the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and in the matter of his devotional service, there is material contamination, are called Mayavati. According to their imperfect speculation, the impersonal Brahman is considered the only existence of the cosmic manifestation. As soon as there is a conception of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they consider that it is in contact with Maya or the external material energy. Similarly, such persons consider all incarnations of the Supreme Lord to be contaminated by this material nature. According to them, this material body of the living entity and the action of matter on all the different kinds of identifications of the living entity are called material manifestation. According to them, liberation means that there is no longer any individual identification or pure living entity. In other words, a living entity, when he is liberated, becomes one with the supreme impersonal Brahman. And we stop here?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. So, summarization of the reading. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself, but he never expressed himself as if he is the Lord. This is to teach his followers that no one should accept anyone as the Supreme Personality of Godhead unless it is testified through scriptural reference and by activities. Lord Chaitanya taught the conditioned soul how Krishna can be approached through devotional service. Lord Nityananda is the immediate expansion. Advaita Prabhu also in the category of Supreme, but he is the subordinate to Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. Gadadhara is the confidential devotee. There are different potencies of the Lord engaging in the service of the Supreme Lord. They are situated in conjugal love, parental affection, and friendly affinity or obedient servitude. These devotees become the confidential devotees of the Lord. Sankirtan movement was started by Lord Chaitanya. In that movement, Lord Nityananda and Advaita are his expansions. Living entities are called marginal potency because they have the tendency to surrender unto Krishna as well as the tendency to be independent of the Supreme Lord. Krishna gave us the free will. The threefold miseries is due to the material entanglement. Persons who experience the transcendental favor no longer have the taste for